Okay, the goal for today, I know if I can solve unit rate and proportion problems. So really we're taking a step back today to see what you know and what you still need to study. Okay, so this is the point where you're a little self-aware of what you can do. Okay, so we're just going to go through some review problems together. Okay, a hot dog stand sold 40 hot dogs. The ratio of hot dogs to fries sold was 5 to 2. And you want to make a table for this. Okay, so hot dogs to fries was 5 to 2. For every 5 hot dogs sold, there were 2 fries sold. Okay, so every time I add 5 hot dogs to my list, I'm going to add 2 fries. So the top of this table is going up by 5. And every time the top goes up by 5, the bottom has to go up by 2. And I'm going to keep going with this table until I get up to 40 hot dogs. Okay, so 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Okay, so I'm going to continue to the bottom of the table to see how many fries. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay, so how many fries were sold? 16 fries. All right, moving on to part B. Okay, so part B, does the table above represent a proportion? Okay, so how do we check if a table is proportion? Well, we have an XY table. We're going to make a third row, and that third row is going to be y divided by x equals k. We're going to divide to see if we get a constant. Okay, so when we divide that first column, the 2 and the 5, you have to type in the y first. So it's 2 divided by 5. I'm getting 0.4, 0.4. So we have to check each one of these values. Okay, so I'm going to type all those in my calculator. 4 divided by 10, 6 divided by 15, 8 divided by 20, 10 divided by 25. And I do have to check them all because sometimes one of the values may not work. But here they all work. So yes, it's a proportion. Our constant of proportionality is 0.4. Okay, and the last part asks us to write an equation for the table. Okay, if I'm looking at writing an equation, there are 2 formulas I can use. I can use the y divided by x equals k, or I can use the y equals kx. Okay, but for each formula, I'm going to substitute what I know for the constant. Okay, so one answer is y divided by x equals 0.4. Another possible answer would be y equals 0.4x. All right, let's look at one more of these types of problems. Okay, the ratio of games Dave won to what his friend won was 7 to 5. Dave won 35 games. Okay, so I have to continue Dave's part of the table until I get up to 35. Every time the top goes up by 7, the bottom's going to go up by 5. So how many games did his friend won? Well, his friend won 25. Okay, let's check to see if this is a proportion. Okay, so x and y, we're going to do the y's divided by the x and see if we get a constant for each of those. Okay, so 5 divided by 7. All right, I get a long decimal that takes up my whole screen. I'm going to do second PRB and equals to turn it into a fraction. Again, second PRB and equals, I'm getting 5 over 7. Okay, so I'm going to check all of these. I'm going to write them each as a fraction. So I got to do 10 divided by 14, second PRB. And it looks like these are working out. So I'm getting a constant of 5/7. So yes, it's a proportion. The constant is 5/7. I can say that y divided by x equals 5/7. Or I can say y equals 5/7x. All right, next way to solve this is equivalent ratios. For every 3 laps you jog, you run 2 laps. Okay, so if we were doing a table, we're talking about jogging and running. Okay, but instead of a table, okay, so 3 laps jogged, 2 laps ran. I'm going to do a fraction. Okay, I'm going to make it equal. Okay, equivalent means equal to another fraction, and it says I jog. Oops, sorry. It says I run 36 laps. So I'm going to put that 36 in my denominator because that's where we put run. So you're asking yourself, 2 times what gets me 36? Should be 2 times 18. Okay, so if we made that table, we'd have to go out 18 spots to get to this number. Okay, so 3 times 18, let me check that to get my final answer. And I'm getting that you jog 54 laps. Man, that's far. Okay, and one more problem where we're reviewing ratio. A video game had 35 levels. You beat 5 of them. And they want to know the ratio of levels that you have left to the levels that you've beat. Okay, so if I beat 5 of them, then I have 30 of them left. Okay, so for my ratio, they want me to write the levels left first to the levels beaten. So 30 to 5. Okay, let's look at a couple of unit rate questions. I paid $10.80 for 9 ounces of candy. How much would 1 ounce cost? Now, when I'm doing unit rate, whatever I'm trying to find 1 of, that value has to go in my denominator. Okay, so I'm trying to find 1 ounce of candy, so the ounces of candy is going to be my denominator. Okay, so I have $10.80 for 9 ounces. Well, how am I going to make this into a fraction out of 1? I'm going to divide those. So I'm going to do the 10.80 divided by 9, and I get 1.2, but since it's money, I'm going to say $1.20 for 1 ounce. Okay, unit rate, again, you're trying to turn this denominator into a 1. How much for 1 ounce? Okay, in 40 hours, I made $540. What is my hourly wage? Okay, hourly means how much per hour. How much for 1 hour? Or you even may hear how much for each hour. Okay, so the hours, I'm going to try to find out how much for one of those. That's going to be my denominator. Okay, you also may remember that cash is king, so money is almost always your numerator. $540 divided by 40 hours. Let's see how much this person makes. 540 divided by 40. This person makes $13.50 per hour. Okay, so that's unit rate, finding how much for 1 hour. All right, here's one to try. See who got the better deal for each candy bar. Okay, on John's side, it's $8 for 10 candy bars. So if I divide those, I'm getting 80 cents for one. And on Emma's side, it's $12.75 or 15 bars, candy bars. So this is an extra method using algebra that you learned now learned this in 7th grade. Okay, so I'm going to bring down the equal sign. When I have a proportion, okay, I have two fractions and an equal sign in between them. That's the only time I can cross multiply. Okay, so I'm going to go up and I'm going to write that first value to the right. 5 times 2.5 is 12.5. Okay, don't forget that equal sign in the middle. And I'm going to do 4 times x. I just write that as 4x. Okay, I have a new equation now. I have 4 times x equals 12.5. To get rid of that 4 in front of the x, I'm going to divide it out. Okay, I want to turn that 4x into a 1x. Well, 4 divided by 4 is 1. So now I have 1x. 12.5 divided by 4 is 3.125. Okay, so this way of solving proportions is helpful when you have decimals to deal with. Okay, let's look at another one like that. And don't forget to bring down your equal sign. 10 times x, I'm going to write that on the right side. 2 times 2, I'm going to write on the left side. Well, now I have 10 x's. I want to turn that into a 1. Okay, it's kind of like unit rate if you think about it. How do I turn a 10 into 1? I'm going to divide by that value. So I have 1x equals, and then 4 divided by 10 is 0.4. Okay, so here's a problem that we can solve with a proportion. Okay, you could also find the unit rate first and then multiply. So 7 candles cost $4.20. I'm going to say that it's $4.20 for 7 candles. Well, that means if I divide those, that'll tell me how much for 1 candle. So it's 60 cents for 1 candle. Okay, now the next step, it's a 2-step question. Move on to the next line. Don't keep writing equals on the right, because these values are not all equal. So start off on a new line. We're going to do the 60 cents times the 4. I want to know how much 4 candles are. That is $2.40. Okay, this one is similar, but I'll do this one with a proportion, okay, to show that you can do it both ways. Megan drove 15 miles in 30 minutes. Okay, so we have miles and minutes. 15 miles in 30 minutes. How long will it take her to drive 20 miles? Okay, so that 20, I put miles in my numerator. I have to put that 20 in my numerator. And I'm looking for the denominator. Okay, 30 times 20 is 600. X times 15 is 15x. Now to get rid of the 15, to figure out what 1x is, I'm going to divide out that 15. And I get 600 divided by 15 is 40. So x equals 40. Okay, so that's another way to solve this proportion problem. Okay, looking at the last 2 questions. Okay, so to give us part of a table, we have to find the equation, and then we have to fill in 2 values. Okay, so let's see the constant first. If I do 5 divided by 4 and 10 divided by 8, I get a constant. So my formula is y equals 1.25 times x. Okay, so now it says use your equation to determine the value of y if x is 3.2. Okay, so in that formula, instead of the x, so instead of 1.25 times x, I'm going to do 1.25 times 3.2. And I'm getting y equals 4. Okay, and the last part, let me rewrite my equation because I'm running out of space. Y equals 1.25x. The last part says, well, what if y is 13? Okay, so I'm going to put that underneath the y. Where the y was, I'm going to have a 13. Bring down 1.25x. Now, how do I solve for x? Well, I have to get rid of that number in front. I have to divide out that 1.25. So 13 divided by 1.25 is 10.4. Okay, last one is similar. See if you can do this last one. Okay, your equation is y equals 3.5x. In part B, you plug that in for where the x is, and you get y equals 12.25. For part C, they tell you what the y is, so you plug the 15 where the y is. You have to divide to solve this one. Divide by the 3.5. And this one as a decimal does not come out nicely. So second PRB on your calculator will give you that fraction.